I don't regret kissing you at the Hawaiians, and I would do it again no matter how many times we ended up in the same situation. But maybe that's because I can't bear the idea of facing Nagomi in Kibe, or that I can't bring myself to forgive Mami. I also feel guilty about my grandma believing in me until the very end. I think there's more to what I'm feeling than just being in love with you. I might have feelings for you, but considering my current lifestyle, my work, and everything else, I just don't think this is something I can jump into right now. So, the leaks were real. The leaks were real. And 380 chapters, people. Like, I want to point this out. This is chapter 380. Years, almost a decade, of reading Rent-A-Girlfriend. Like, there's people that's been reading this series since day one. Imagine the soul-crushing nature of this chapter for those that have stuck with this series basically since the beginning, or at least jumped in years ago. Imagine how soul-crushing this chapter is. I can meme on this, I could just laugh, but honestly, I want to rip this apart. I really want to rip apart what this chapter does, not just to Rent-A-Girlfriend as a series, but Kazuya and Chizuru as a character. This entire chapter, hell, these last 20 to 30 chapters, legitimately paints a picture that Chizuru is just very vindictive and malicious. This entire situation here is probably some of the most evil things you could do to a man, or anyone in general. In fact, I would dare say that what Chizuru has done in this moment is hands down worse than Mami. Whatever Mami has done within the story, I would say this is infinitely worse because of the significance on what Chizuru means to Kazuya, but also just what Chizuru decided to do within this moment. Let me paint a picture, okay? Let me paint a picture on how we got here. For the last 20 to 30 chapters, this entire arc has basically been Chizuru taking Kazuya around and talking about some very important, serious questions, romantic questions at that, about being a couple, marriage, potentially kids, all sorts of different stuff like that. Basically, just a very adult conversation. And the entire last 20 to 30 chapters, that's weeks upon weeks upon weeks of time, okay? Of people reading this manga, just those chapters alone, just for the finale of the arc to be Chizuru saying, I reject you. I prefer my job of being basically a, pretty much a prostitute over being with you. It's, pretty messed up. Like, there's a lot of ways I can analyze that, and I definitely will. But I want to point out that this entire situation of her bringing Kazuya to a romantic spot and then just straight up saying, yeah, I got feelings for you, but, you know, I like my lifestyle, my work, and everything else more than you, so yeah. No, yeah, I forgot to mention, my job is about me going on fake dates with guys, so I enjoy that more than you. I want to keep that lifestyle instead of being with someone that I straight up admit that I have feelings for. It's gross. Like, even if we want to analyze the actual writing or anything, I'm looking at it from a perspective of, like, if this really happened, okay? Like, if this was two real characters, okay, and this really happened in a real-life situation, I would cut all contact. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you, I would never speak with Chizuru again. And I'm not saying that Kazuya deserves to be with Chizuru, or Chizuru deserves to be with Kazuya. I'm just saying that this entire situation on leading him on, not just in these last 20 and 30 chapters, but honestly, the entire series at this point, it's so toxic that they should never be together. Like, their entire relationship, the foundation of it is so toxic that I could never openly, truly say with good conscience that these two should be together. That's just, they are that bad. They are bad for each other. And everything about this situation, this Chizuru in this chapter is fundamentally so different than the Chizuru we've got in the last 20 to 30 chapters, which, once again, the writing there is questionable, and you can bring into question of wanting to extend the series or not. But the point of the matter is that Chizuru, she straight up maliciously denied him like this, and I think that Kazuya should just move on. He, in all intents and purposes, should just be done, because Chizuru clearly likes the attention. She likes to be noticed and attention from guys and stuff, and that's what she wants. And it kind of comes to the question, if I was in Kazuya's shoes, thank God I'm not, but if I was in his shoes, I would be thinking to myself, like, maybe she doesn't really like me, she just likes me because of the attention and money I give her. Because how else are you supposed to process what she said here when she legitimately says, but considering my current lifestyle, my work, and everything else, I just don't think this is something I can jump into right now. And those words do have some more meaning to it, which I will explain, but it doesn't change the fact she basically admits to Kazuya she prefers dating and going on fake dates, pretty much being like a borderline prostitute, over being with Kazuya. And if I was him, I would crash out. I would straight up crash out. I would be like, yo. Like, I understand your job is to be a rental girlfriend, but like, there's layers and things you do and don't do as a person, and these are one of those times you don't do it, especially if she was going to reject him. But with that being said, what I think is just truly a dumpster fire about all this, honestly, this Reddit comment here I want to show actually summarizes it very well. This is relevant, actually. I'll talk about this in a second. But this Reddit comment that this person made actually summarizes what's happened recently just super well. And Chizuru's actions, just like I said, are very malicious. Chizuru ghosted Kazuya for 3 months because she started to notice her feelings. How is this a normal reaction? That isn't a normal reaction. Asked Kazuya for money for the trip she invited herself to. Asked Kazuya to give her some more time to figure out her feelings. Starts living with Kazuya and noticing her feelings. Asks Kazuya very serious questions about couple/married life. Sets up the mood, goes to a romantic place, making a sort of confession and tell him she might love him, knowing she's going to reject him, only making it harder for Kazuya. Could have just rejected him without telling him about her feelings so he could move on and not cling on to her. After recalling a discussion with her grandma who told her not to toy with feelings few chapters ago, by the way. This is what's truly despicable. That right there is what is the most despicable, is that she did toy with his feelings. Obviously, the entire series, she's been doing that, but this in general is why the chapter is getting so much heat, why so many people are reacting negatively to it, and even massive fans of Rent-A-Girlfriend are not reacting negatively to it, is because Chizuru did something that was just straight up heartless. It is one of the most heartless things, and like I said, she has done more damage, I think now to Kazuya, than Mami ever did, which gets into this panel here with Mami. Mami, as a character, is toxic. She's not a good person, but she is a plot driver. Anytime she's within the story, she drives the plot. She's a very important character. A good written character, actually. But this entire situation, what she says here, is the most truth stuff you can really get, because this panel has aged so well, and that if Kazuya would have taken this advice, he probably would be in a better situation. And he would not be in a situation like this where his soul is absolutely crushed. Now, with that being said, I want to talk about, in general, where we're going to go from here. So, a confession, a rejection, has happened. This is a big moment with any story, especially for a romance story. Now, I know this is Rent-A-Girlfriend, and obviously this, theoretically, could be extended for another 100 chapters, if we're wanting to, or if the writer wants to. But this is a very big turning point for a story, especially when something like this happens. There's a lot of damage now that is done. And overcoming something like this, there's only a few different routes an author could go. One route is that Chizuru realizes she messed up. She said very awful things. She realizes she led Kazuya on. And, I mean, the entire wording and dialogue in this chapter saying that she is not ready to jump into it now, it's very deliberate wording. And it implies that Chizuru most likely is going to realize what she did and apologize. And they're going to get together. That is most likely what's going to happen. However, there is other options if the writer wants to go down these routes that could actually happen. The second option is that Kazuya, he gets very depressed from this for a very good reason, and he runs off to a previous girl he's been interacting with for a while now, or someone he's had history with. Mami is a very good example, which gets into, like, this panel here. You know, Mami is obviously toxic. She is not a good person by any means. But looking at the damage that Chizuru has done to Kazuya's life, Mami is definitely better than Chizuru. Hands down, which is crazy to say. It's actually insane. Now, I can even say that with a straight face. The thing is that that is an option. That's not a good ending, but it's there. It makes sense, too. The third option is that Kazuya continues to chase after Chizuru. Chizuru remains stubborn, and she prefers to have fake relationship, fake dates and stuff, and eventually she encounters someone that she also loves more than Kazuya, someone that can give her more attention, someone that can give her more money, whatever, and she gets with them, right in front of Kazuya, and Kazuya is devastated, to the point to where either he gives up on her, or he continues to chase after her, and he lives out his cuck fantasies that he had in the pool. That is option 3. Option 4 is that Kazuya, he crashes out. He's done. He pulls a school days moment, and he's just done with Chizuru. Obviously, this one's probably not going to happen, at least likely out of anything I've listed, but obvious crash out is obvious. I think anyone at this point, when you look at the journey of the story, would crash out. I'm not saying that would be the right move to do, but crash out definitely would make sense. The fifth option is that Kazuya, he crashes out, or he goes back and he cries himself in his own room, and he either lives a loner life by himself for the rest of his days, or he, more or less, he finds another girl that is completely disconnected from the story, and he gets with her. Series ends. Whatever the case may be, the endings don't paint a really good picture. I don't see an option here that legitimately is good and will satisfy people. And now, as I've always said, not all endings are going to satisfy people, but in general, what Rent-A-Girlfriend has set up here with this chapter 380, and just everything else, it's so toxic, no ending is good. There is only an ending to where it feels forced, or an ending that's just sad. Like, if Chizuru and Kazuya gets together, it just is forced. There's no one with a working, functional brain that would accept this. No one. You would have to actually have mental illness to go with Chizuru, to want to actively still be with her after this point. The only people that would be fine with that, like I said, is the mentally ill, unironically. So, even if, theoretically, they make up, it's not good. I completely do not accept it, because her actions have just been so disrespectful and malicious, it's unacceptable. Every other option is just sad. Just straight up sad. So, it's like 380 chapters for this, by the way. Now, at this time, we don't have a confirmation on when this series is going to end, okay? I want to make sure I say that right up, like straight up, just say it, but we're clearly close to the end. This is actions that happen when you're near an end of a story. And Rent-A-Girlfriend, man, is quite a manga. Like, this makes a lot of, like, romance series that really are, like, crap look like masterpieces. Like, people that think, like, unironically, Domestic Girlfriend is, like, the worst of the worst, this is worse. Hands down. Like, Domestic Girlfriend at least had some enjoyment factor. This is just frustrating. It's just frustrating to see a chapter like this. Not because you want to see them get together, but just, like, how it's a back and forth, wishy-washy feelings here and there. It's just, ugh. I'll leave it at that, though. Thank you so much for watching. May all of you have a fantastic day or night wherever you live. Chibi out.